Hi guys, you're in the right place if you want to learn how to draw by understanding what you're looking at rather than breaking things down into shapes. And today we're going to be doing this Rufous-tailed hummingbird. And I'd like to start by saying a great big thank you to Rodri Ford for letting us use his beautiful photograph for today's tutorial. So I did do a handout for you. It's a free download, and the link is in the video description. So there is like a little bit of shading that I did, but like ignore that or whatever. You can just practice the outline and then do whatever coloring you want, obviously. So this link is in the download, okay? Now, put your seatbelts on because honestly, I can't tell you how much trouble I had doing this bird. There's lots and lots of these big obtuse angles, and well, I don't know, this kind of doesn't, this almost looks like a right angle, but I really had so much trouble getting the curves and the proportions and whatnot. And I think it's because there's very few features to move from, and it's, anyway, I really had so much trouble. So let's just see how we do today. It took it took forever to do the darn download, so please use it. Okay, so a couple of things. I don't know what you're going to want to use today. Obviously, I'm going to use a pen, but what you could do is use a pen for sort of defining the shape, and then you could switch to a colored pencil if you wanted to work on actually shading the different portions of the bird. It's totally your call, obviously, but let's just get started. And gosh, if you have to stop and start again multiple times, trust me, because that was like what it's been over the last couple of days. So you see how, if you're familiar with hummingbirds, great, you're very blessed. We have a lot of them around in the summertime. But basically, they're a small bird that has a long bill. The ones around here have a much shorter tail, but the shape is very characteristic. And their long bill supports a very long tongue that allows them to get the nectar from a whole bunch of different flowers. So they're very aggressive. They move like a bullet, and they scare off other hummingbirds. So the cute and small, but not very friendly. And true story, my reading glasses have a red rim, and I was outside in the summer with my reading glasses on, and a hummingbird came by and came very close to me, thinking that the red rim on my glasses was actually different blossoms. So they're incredibly brave and curious and smart and mean and all sorts of things, including extremely difficult to draw. So I would like to start with a very small part of the bill, and then we're just going to go up a little bit for the forehead and do the part of the skull above the eye, and see how wide this angle is, how big this obtuse angle is. That's what we want to aim for. So, also where you start on your page, keep in mind that we're going to be going to the right and down to the right. So if you have a tiny scrap piece of paper, just be mindful where you start. Oh gosh, if I could just talk about the weather or find another reason to delay the start. Okay, so we're just going to come down a little bit for the bill and up a little bit for the forehead and past the eye, and then immediately start to curve up a little bit for the top of the head. And see how it really kind of flattens out here? See, even this, even my angle, I think, is too sharp. See, we just started and already this is something I'm gonna have to fix. Oh boy. Okay, let's do the top of the head, how it really kind of flattens off along the top of the head, and then slopes a bit to the back of the head, and then drops. And see this drop here at the back of the head into the back of the neck? This is very classic. This is a very classic hummingbird shape head. Yeah, I am gonna have to level that out a little bit. So we're gonna go up, a little bit flat on the top of the head, a little bit flat coming off the back of the head, and a little bit flat coming down. And just be sure to watch your angles, see how it drops almost vertical. And then there's a little bit here for the back of the neck, and then a very, very slight curve where we're beginning to get into the curvature of the shoulder and the upper back. Now, see how thick the bill is? You think about this really, really long tongue, and I don't know if it's like a woodpecker where the tongue coils around the head or just actually coils up in the front, but see how thick this is right here, as opposed to like a little warbler or something. So let's have that kind of, if I started the bill, let's just have that a little bit thick, and then we curve right under the chin. See this curve here? It comes, curves back for the throat. And that I just want to make it a little bit wider. And then this curve down the throat to the upper chest, and a little bit of curving for the tummy. So see how the curve of her tummy begins well behind the eye? So if I want to start this as a curve of the tummy, I don't know, let me straighten out my paper. That's not too bad. Because we really want to try to get the angle of the body and the angle of the wing. Because if you can capture that, that's pretty good for a classic hummingbird stance in flight. Okay, I want to do the curve of the tummy. This is the upper chest here, the rib cage, and then coming down. See how it kind of cuts back at this angle? Try to copy that. Now, let's just stop for a second, because you see from the shoulder down to the toes, that's pretty much in a straight line. So if this is my shoulder here and I go straight down, her little feet should be right here. So check your sketch and see if this is thick enough. See if that distance is thick enough in your sketch. For me, I don't think it is. So what I've cut her tummy up too much. So I'm going to change this angle and drop it down a little bit. Like that. Now let's go back. If you can see in the photo, there's just a little bit of detail where at the top of her shoulder, it's on her body there, and then these feathers. So see how this is almost basically a right angle? On your sketch, try to do basically a right angle there as well. I'm gonna drop this a little bit. That seems to be better. you sketch the same bloody bird 7 times, you do eventually get better at it. Okay, so with this wing, take it out basically. Oh, look how my printer is helping us out. This black line, because the heads are going, the top of her head is below this black line, but the end of her wing is above it. So when you're figuring out how far out to go, just follow that right angle and just take it out a little bit past the top of her head. No need to commit right now. Okay, and if we like this, let's actually put in her little toes. If you like this width here, so one of the things that I like about this stunning photograph is it does show her little feet, and this is also very typical of a hummingbird. So not, there's lots of photographs of hummingbirds in the air. Not all of them actually capture the way the toes are tucked into the body during flight. So, I mean, they do have little legs and everything, but you can never see them. Well, never say never. So this is her back foot, the one on the other side, I guess her right side, and this is one toe here, and this is another toe right here. And this one, these are the toes of her foot facing us. So see how this confusing little clump of claws is just all together coming out of her tummy, and that's like fabulous. So just do what you can. It's so wonderful when they perch in the sunlight. Are her feet right under? Okay, this I think should have been a little bit longer, and then we've got some fluffy feathers here. And right here, that's the bottom of her body. Okay, so then we've got this angle here, and if we just go like from her tummy straight down to the fluffy bum feathers, we're kind of in a bit of a line like that, maybe steeper. And these fluffy bum feathers are under the dark patch of her wing. Oh my God, if this sketch turns out, for me, I'm going to be ecstatic. Now, I do want to just put in this little tail feather right here, basically because have I given her too many fluffy, don't give her too many fluffy bum feathers. I'm going to back this feather up a little bit. Let's keep so her body and the tail is dropping a little bit like that. Okay, that's enough. This is stressing me out. Now, how about we sketch the rest of her body? So see this curve that comes all the way down? Let's do this. And if you don't have her neck thick enough, don't worry about it. We'll figure that out. So we're going to come along her back to the wing, and this part, where do I want to start? Because there's a feather on her body here. And when we bring her back down, it's a little bit of a curve. So these feathers that end here, see how far below the feet they are? And they're also below the fluffy bum feathers. So if we go fluffy bum feathers across and down a little bit, this, let's just join these up like that. And these are the, like the top layer of feathers coming off her body that are laying across the tail. And then it's a little bit narrower. Can I bring this together quickly enough? I'm not sure. How do I want, I think we'll work on this angle a little bit more and bring this down. There is quite a bit of distance here. So just do what you need to get the tail feathers together. I mean, just because the photograph is a rufous-tailed hummingbird, it doesn't mean that's what we have to draw. And there are some hummingbirds in South America that have very, very long tails. And then the hummingbirds that we see in the ruby-throated, they have like much, much shorter tails. The point is, there's more than one variety of hummingbird out there. So anything that you do is going to be fabulous. We're just focusing on this shape, all these flippin' obtuse angles that we're going to try to make work so we get a basic shape. And no, I'm way too stressed to draw the flower. What am I doing here? This feather lies against that one. I'm going to have to add a couple more lines here. And this part should be narrower. Ignore this line. It's a boo-boo. Okay. Well, holy macaroni, I am like super thrilled with this. We can stop right here. Okay, let's figure out how we're gonna do the tips of the feathers. So can you just real quick check your sketch and make sure that if you go from the top of her head straight across, your wing tip, the end of the wing is just gonna be a little bit above her head. So in doing this curve here, another thing I had trouble with was getting this this nice curve. So it's a good idea to kind of like start down here. So this is going on to her back, and we've got some of these little feathers coming. This is actually pretty thick. Let's go down a little bit and then out a little bit. And then we can go from the other end and just bring them in a little bit and curve and bring them in a little bit more. The reason, like the shutter speed on this photograph must have been huge because their wings beat 300 times a minute back and forth like this, so the bird can reverse out of the flower when it's getting the nectar. Okay, I think my wing can be thicker. I want this thicker, wider. So how about I'm just gonna draw this down a little bit like that. Now we've got the edges of the feathers here, and then we're getting into all the the actual, you know, meat and potatoes of the feathers that are keeping them attached to her wing, putting the wing together. So we want to just, how about we just do a couple dark marks like this, down, and then there's this section here that comes out. In the download that I did for you, I don't think I made, you could do a better job than me in this part of her wing. And then we can just darken this in. I think if you're doing your own artwork with this, the important thing is just to have, you know, some area kind of like darkened for the under part of her wing. That's going to be good enough. Anything you do with your artwork is going to be good enough. Okay, we can just sort of add some darker. With the sunlight shining through her wing, it's super cool. Okay, while we're here, how about we just do a little bit of, okay, so this is where, like, if you do have a colored pencil and you want to switch to actually do the shading for this part, it might be a lot easier, because see how the feathers are lined, like they're all colored with both the green and the gray, and they're all iridescent and they're catching the sunlight. Most hummingbirds are like this, they're very iridescent. So the feathers, as they lay so neatly along the body, look like little fish scales. And if you wanted to use your colored pencil, it might be a little bit easier doing all that shading. We are not doing like 2,000 fish scales on this sketch, even though that might be a heck of a lot more relaxing than getting this part done. But anyway, as I was saying, since we're here around her armpit, let's just shade in a little bit of this contour where the feathers are going, you know, in different parts, curving around the cartilage underneath, and along her body, where they're kind of like a little bit dark in tone and laying differently along. I don't want to screw this up. I should shut up and keep talking. This is where I would be turning my photograph on its side and upside down and whatnot to just kind of get this shading a little bit accurate. As you guys know, I can't talk and shade at the same time. So if you're happy working with your pen, just take your time and just get some variety in the tones with the amount of pressure that you're putting on your pen, so it doesn't all look exactly the same underneath the wing. Okay, we've got other things to do. That's good enough for now. Should we give her an eyeball? Okay, see how large the eye is, and you know, I don't know if it's a large eye because it's in a small head, but regardless, let's figure out the placing. See how there's very little space between the top of the eye and the top of her head. So when you choose your starting point, don't go too low, because you don't want to have a big space between the top of the eye and the top of her head. So and back it up a little bit too, because you see from the bottom of her eye down to this long section of her throat, you wanna sort of make sure that you've got this space underneath the eye. But it's easier to start with having the eye close to this little curve that we put in on her forehead and the bone above her eye in the skull. And not a perfect circle. More like a little bit of a teardrop shape. And then a big white patch on the eyeball where the light is reflected off the moisture. Of her eye. Better to have it a little bit too big than too small. If you make it too big, you can always shade it in a little bit. Now, see this shading here where it's recessed in front of her eyes? So just do a little bit of shading above the eye itself, and then shade this little V section into the bill and down in front of the eye. My paper's a little bit thicker today, which is allowing me to sort of make these finer, like this lighter type of shading. Might as well carry this up to her top of her head, a little bit around to the back of the eye. Now we have this, see this little V right here? These are feathers that are coming up into the bill. And then there's more feathers coming up the throat, a little bit past that. So this is feathers, and then we get into the cartilage of the bill. So let's just do like this small curve Let's take it out. And then curve it up and narrow it off fairly quickly, okay? I mean, no one's going to get a ruler and say, oh, the bill of your sketch is too short. As long as we put it out a little bit, we're going to know it's a hummingbird. And the tongue comes right at the end like a little tube. And they usually do poopy right before they come to your feeder, so never hang your hummingbird feeder over the railing. Make sure it goes out over the grass or the flower bed. Wow. Oh my God, you guys, if you knew what I've been through over the last couple of days, you would understand why I'm so happy with this. Her head looks too small. I'm not going to nitpick. Let's start shading. So I just want you to start, with your pen. Let's just do some very careful shading to get the contour around her face and around the eye, and then the back of the head, and the coloring along her back. And we know what to do. We know where all the shading goes. We got it from here. The hard part's over. So just shade in her head a little bit, and just put in a little bit of contour behind her eye, and then take that down where it's behind the eye and goes down into the back of her neck, and then blends into the top of her back. And there's just a little bit of feathers sort of like not quite lying flat at the back of her head as well. Let's make this patch a little bit bigger. And then there's a little tiny bit of coloring on that we can see at the top of her back there. And then the feathers around her face just kind of like lay up a bit with the way they go. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think we can try some of these fish scales to give a bit of an impression of, or is that dumb? I don't know, the hard part's over. I just want to focus on shading. We want to just make it a little bit darker under her throat, and see how these feathers kind of are swooping up on the side of her eye. We can do that. And then around on her neck and the shoulder. So see this right here? This is just a pretty distinction between the feathers, the way the feathers are lying on her throat, and the way they start on her body. So let's just shade in her tummy, the under part, and where the feathers are sort of thick and out of place around her feet. They're going to be causing some shadows and whatnot there. And then we're gonna we want to get this contour under her armpit, this part of her body. Let's shade this. Well, there's really like a lot going on because it's her coloring and it's the shadows and whatnot. We'll just do the best we can, as usual. But what I would like you to do is leave these bum feathers lighter, just so that we do have a bit of a distinction where her body is stopping and the tail is starting. Let's just shade her in. Let's get something down. She won't mind. Okay, I think right here, I already told you that I don't like this line. So I'm just gonna darken it a little bit more and pretend that I didn't even draw that. Yeah, I'm just gonna add more shading. Okay, can we, and this is more coloring and shadow actually on her body, and then we've got the sun reflected on her, the back. This is why she's called a Rufous-tailed for sure. This beautiful rust color. A little bit of that. This feather I made too, this one right here I made too big, too fat on my sketch. There's another line that's not supposed to be there. And then we can do some of the dark gray and black along the tail. I feel like getting my bottle of white out to sort of get rid of those markings along the tail and along her body here, because otherwise I'd be super happy with this sketch. Okay. Okay, so let's just, okay, this is, I have some, now I just want to work on the contrasts. So we'll just get a little bit of darker markings under the tail. Oh, am I? Oh my God, this whole time I hope I haven't been drawing outside the picture. Can you imagine? God, you guys. Sorry. Well, let's just shade her tummy a little bit more, and then this shading under her wing. Her back. Oh man, now I'm like all worried that I've been doing work for the last 10 minutes out of camera shot. Well, so what? 'Tis the season for forgiveness, right? See how her face is a little bit dark? We can just sort of like make sure that we're getting that. Don't take don't get carried away with your shading though and take it right to her eyeball, because there is a little bit of distinction there around it, but we can just do this around her face. We know where the shadows go. And what I want to do is, without blocking, this is pretty good, and I just want to do a bit more detail along the top of her head. So I'm just being very, very light because these are supposed to be the feathers that are catching the sunlight and a bit more iridescent, but she does kind of have this brown cap a little bit to her head and her forehead that blends into the back of her neck. Some distinction there. And just a very little bit of darkness that we can see right at the back of the neck. This is okay. I mean, without actually shading in every single feather. Are you happy with, see how thick it is from her throat to the back of the neck? I think I want to have mine just a little thicker, and make sure you put in like a small curve there to sort of show the curve of the upper back. I'm trying to block this a bit more, make it a bit more blocky. I don't want to get too carried away and be too dark in certain places where it's supposed to be a little bit lighter. And just kind of try to hope you're not working on the tail right now. Oh, I kind of get this a little bit more shaded. And then these feathers under her eye are also a bit darker. And this, I wonder. Okay. Well, honestly, I'm not joking with the amount of trouble that I've had over the last couple of days trying to figure this sketch out. I'm pretty happy with this. I wanna, if this should be, see how, I don't know, don't make it too wide, the bill right by the face. I should bring mine in a little bit. And I'm not sure I want to leave this great big white patch because we did so much shading on her head. I'm going to blend this in a little bit better. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm just, gee, messing around as per. But, I mean, I really did want you to have some kind of reference sketch for a hummingbird in your inventory so that you can do, you know, like birthday cards or Christmas cards or whatever you like. And gosh, was I ever stunned at how tricky this was to do, which just makes me all the more pleased that you guys will have something that you can actually download and trace, whatever, if you like. So yeah, that was, should we kind of call it quits at this? I don't know. I'm really happy with the way it's kind of turned out. Proof that practice makes perfect. Practice makes better, not perfect. So just have a look at your own sketch and where your shading is, if it's okay. With the little bum feathers, a bit of darkness under her tummy. Nothing all, not that neat and stuff. And the tail. Scribble, 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 scribble. This shouldn't be here. Anyway, I can't believe it's been so long since I posted a video. Where do the days go, you guys? It just seems like, you know, not that busy, not really doing anything, and then bang, a month is gone. So it's just been a little bit shocking how long it's been between today's video and what I've done in the past. Or, well, what am I trying to say? It's been a month since we did the little sparrow together. I couldn't believe it. A month? I don't think I'm really doing anything to make her look better, which means there's a lot more potential to actually doing harm. But I've got to be super happy with the thumbnail, right? So I can't stop until I think, okay, this will be all right for a thumbnail. Oh, that's good enough. Okay, so as usual, thank you so much for your company. I'm super, super happy that you guys hang out with me and tolerate me, you know, drawing outside the lines, for heaven's sakes. I cringe to think about how much of the video was like actually not, but yeah, but actually it doesn't matter. You guys are supposed to be doing your own thing. It's all about keeping me company, keeping each other company, and practicing our sketching. And when we do that, win-win, working in community. Okay, you guys, fabulous. I super duper will plan to be back again this month. Can't believe it's already December. But in the meantime, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.